Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I am recording this on August 28th. I'm going to be talking about the triple E virus, which is Eastern Equine Encephalitis. The last video I did, I focused primarily on the West Nile virus. I was going to focus on other stuff too, but it just ballooned out, and we're going to do something similar in this video with triple E virus, okay? It's really important to understand that there's two issues here. One issue is the mosquito passing on different viruses, such as West Nile or triple E. And the spraying in your community causing disruption because they're toxic chemicals. Disruption on your skin, disruption in your endocrine system, disruption with your neurons, disruption with your immune system, causing stress at the cellular level. So it's really important to mitigate that. So there's the mosquito issue and the virus that it has, which is low probability but high impact, and the chemicals that they're spraying in your community that is high probability, medium to high impact. So, it's really important to pay attention to me. You're going to need to detoxify your body because of the chemicals that they're spraying. All right. You can do that by some of the products that I have on my store. Before we talk about those products, please make sure you subscribe to all my channels. I have 4 channels on YouTube. I have Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. Please subscribe to all of them. You can follow me on X, and you can follow me on GETTR, so you can get notifications on the content that I create and some of the things that I have, some of my thoughts on certain topics. In addition, you can help support my work because these videos that I'm doing are for free. I have thousands of videos for free, and it's through the support of donations and ones that are paid members on Patreon. Please donate on my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video. Just click the link, go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and please help by donating through Stripe, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee. You can also be a paid member to my Patreon channel, and by being a paid member at a higher tier level, you can get different level access to my lectures in addition to my other videos. But you can also get access to my lecture videos on pulmonology and immunology. So that helps support the channel, and it allows me to provide free content for everybody. So we're going to go over triple E virus, what it is, what's in the news, and how to mitigate some of the toxins that they are going to be spraying in the environment. It is important that if you have a good immune system, you're reducing the risks of this issue by improving your endocrine system, improving your neural health, improving your cellular health, improving your overall homeostasis. You are going to be able to weather this cold season. Now, I think it's very important to mention that they're spraying right before we get into the cold season. So they're going to weaken your system and your susceptibility to RSV or SARS-CoV-2 or influenza or something else, Mpox or whatever. Your susceptibility may increase because your immune system is down, your endocrine system is down. You have more cellular stress. You have higher inflammation because of the stuff they're spraying. So it's really important to detoxify from that stuff. So with that said, please make sure you follow and ask your social media to follow me to grow the reach so I can reach more people to inform them on how to mitigate some of these problems. What we're going to do is we're going to go over some of the news on triple E virus. This is in Massachusetts.
Developing right now, the latest on the deadly mosquito virus, triple E. State Department of Health announcing plans to spray for mosquitoes in the area with high or critical risk. Our Aaron Logan is in that area of Plymouth where more precautions are being taken and put into place. Aaron.
Darren, Plymouth has closed its public parks and outdoor recreation spots from dusk until dawn, prime time for mosquito biting. State health officials say that even though there's only one confirmed human case of EEE here in Massachusetts, the first since 2020, it is important to be very careful. Mosquitoes and EEE, the topic of conversation here in Plymouth.
I saw in the news last night that EEE was now a top threat.
Maggie O'Neill, a motel owner, in a rush to make out-of-town guests aware.
And there's people outside of the fire pit, and I'm not sure if they know.
Saturday, the state announced spraying is scheduled to happen during the week starting Monday, August 26th. In Plymouth County, there will be aerial spraying in Carver, Halifax, Kingston, Middleborough, Plymouth, Plimpton, Rochester, and Wareham. And in Worcester County, truck-mounted ground spraying in Douglas, Dudley, Oxford, Sutton, and Uxbridge. Locals are aware of the risk, but some aren't taking it as serious as others.
If something's bit me, it's bit me more times than I could tell you. I don't worry about it. It's a very low percentage. It's the same every year. It's a threat every year. So I do the same every year, which is basically nothing.
EEE may be rare, but according to the
It's
Centers
low impact. See the point I'm making? They're missing the issue here. It's low impact, high. It's low probability, high impact. All right. EEE virus is low impact. Let me rephrase that. I'm a little tired. EEE is low probability, high impact. West Nile virus is a little bit higher in risk, but it's still low, but high impact. All right. But the EEE relative to West Nile is higher impact if you do contract. All right. So you got to understand the risk profile here. Low probability, high impact for West Nile and EEE. But if you do get EEE, it's dangerous, super dangerous. All right. Now, the bigger issue here isn't the low probability, high impact of the virus. The bigger issue here is the spraying of your community and how it's going to disrupt your immune system, disrupt your endocrine system, disrupt your neurons, create cellular stress, so you are weaker during the cold season. That's the issue.
disease control, 30% of people infected die. Symptoms range from headaches, vomiting to seizures. A horse in Plymouth was infected with the disease, and in the town of Oxford in Worcester County, an 80-year-old man was diagnosed and is recovering. His family asked the town manager to remind all that EEE is an extremely serious disease with terrible physical and emotional consequences.
That definitely makes me think about it. I don't know if I wouldn't go out. I'd probably just wear long pants and long sleeves.
The State Department of Health says during the last EEE outbreak 4 years ago, there were 17 human cases and 7 deaths. So this is something to take very seriously.
See what I mean?
Plymouth, Aaron Logan,
Low probability, high impact. But it's the endocrine disruption from the spraying that's going to be the issue. All right, let's see what we got here. Here's another one.
State health officials, meantime, in Massachusetts and New York, are warning of a high risk of a fatal mosquito-borne disease being spread. The extremely rare Eastern Equine Encephalitis, also known as EEE, is spread from horses to people through infected mosquitoes. It's usually found in eastern or Gulf Coast states. The CDC says that there is no treatment or vaccine available. The CBC's national correspondent, Errol Barnett, is joining us now from Central Park to talk a little bit more about this. Before we started talking, I'm already feeling itchy. I've never heard of this before. Health officials say EEE has been found in horses in upstate New York. 1 human case so far, this in Massachusetts. What more do we know about this? How is EEE different than, say, the West Nile virus?
Yeah, you and me both, Anne-Marie, but we've got some bug spray, which everyone should have on supply this summer. Look, we don't want to scare people, but this EEE disease.
They're worried about a low probability, high impact, but it's the chemicals that they're spraying on their body with these stupid bug repellents that weaken your immune system, affect your endocrine system, cause problems with your skin, cause problems with your neurons. They may be short lasting, maybe longer lasting, depending on your overall health. And then they're spraying in your community with these big trucks where you're going to be breathing it in and touching it when you're touching stuff that's outside, like your car. Or you're walking your pet and your pet is being exposed to these chemicals. These are endocrine disrupting chemicals. These are chemicals that cause stress in your cells. These are chemicals that weaken your immune system. These are chemicals that will make you more susceptible to other infections as we move into the cold season. That is why I am doing these videos. These viruses that they're worried about, EEE and West Nile, low probability, high impact. So if you do get EEE, which is very rare, but if you do get it, it's going to be serious. But what's going to be more probable is that you are going to have a weakened immune system because of the chemicals that they're going to be spreading. So you're going to get irritation in your throat when you are starting to breathe these things, or you're worried about contracting this stuff, all right? And you're spraying all this bug repellent. It's going to cause irritations. So what you're going to need to do is that once you start feeling an irritation in your throat, start taking the lozenges, structural nanosilver lozenges in Manuka honey. This is in a 21 count. I have elderberry zinc in a 21 count. I also have drops in 3 different flavors: honey and lemon, cherry, which is new on my store, and blueberry. All right, they're all in a 100 count for the drops. So you take the drops or the lozenges, all right, get a couple bags for your household. The moment you start feeling a little bit of an irritation from the spraying or during the cold season, take these. They'll neutralize the pathogens or the antigen or the chemical that is irritating your throat, and you're maintaining that mucosal lining. So by doing that, you're reducing the irritation and you're reducing the chances of further problem. All right. So get a couple bags for your household and take it right away when you start having an irritation in your throat. Trust me on this. All right. In addition, the structural nanosilver gel, put it on your skin. It acts as a barrier. You can put it in lightly coat your nostrils and put it around your nose, your eyes, and your ears to help protect. They'll neutralize pathogens and maintain that mucosal barrier and create that skin barrier. Okay. Really important, because you don't want those chemicals on your skin. You don't want to be breathing in those chemicals. All right. On top of, it also helps to neutralize pathogens during the cold season. All right. So please go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get a couple tubes of this for your household. You're going to need it. I'm telling you. In addition, you need to boost up your immune system. Take the olive leaf extract. This is a dual purpose product. It will improve your immune system and your cardiovascular system. How does it work? By bringing down that pro-inflammatory cytokine response and bringing down that chronic inflammation, your immune system is going to get improved. In addition, this helps to improve your cardiovascular health by bringing down LDL levels and raising the HDL levels. So you have a better lipid profile. This is important that for cardiovascular health and your immune system. So please go to the store and get the olive leaf extract. If you get a bug bite, a mosquito bite, all right, stop itching it. All right, stop scratching it from the itch. What you want to do is get the Even Better Bar from my store. This has essential oils from the Himalayas. It's an all-natural product. And what you'll do is you'll apply it on the bug bite and it will eliminate the itching in 30 seconds. Okay? You want to prevent over scratching and causing a wound that may make it more irritated and problematic. All right? So if you have kids or if you're living in an environment where there's going to be a lot of mosquitoes, it's really important to have this Even Better Bar to mitigate it. It also has ingredients in it that brings down that inflammatory response. That's a part of the reason why it helps to heal the skin too at the same time. This is a dual purpose product. You can apply it on your muscles because you might get you might get sick and, maybe a little bit more asymptomatic or a little feverish or a little achy. Apply it on the muscle that aches, and most likely the muscle that aches will reduce in pain, if not eliminate it. It usually happens in about 120 seconds, all right, to eliminate or reduce the pain in a muscle. So this is a dual purpose product, but it's really important to have in your medicine cabinet, because I'm telling you, you're going to need it. And when you need it and you don't have it, you're out of luck. So please go to the store and make sure you have a bar in your household. Get a couple get a couple tubes of the silver gel. Make sure you get a couple bags of the lozenges or the drops, just so you're prepared. Because the season that we're going into is going to be problematic for multiple reasons, because of pathogens and because of the chemicals that they're going to be spraying. In addition, it's all over the news. They got chemtrails in certain communities. They're spraying stuff and affecting the ground and the crops. These are chemicals that are disrupting your immune system and your endocrine system. You have to detoxify these things out. And there's ways to do it. I will show you, I will tell you how to do it.
In some cases, and there are some reported cases outside the Boston area, near Worcester in Massachusetts. And here's the deal. Basically, an infected mosquito will bite a horse. There is no risk that it then can jump from the horse to people or from horses to other horses. But in some rare cases where people are infected by these mosquitoes with EEE, it can lead to the sudden onset of nausea, headache, vomiting, and in some rare cases, Anne-Marie, those symptoms can progress to a much more serious illness, which includes coma. And again, in rare cases, people who suffer with EEE can live on to have neurological impairments in life. And the protections against EEE are the same for any other mosquito-borne virus. It's wear your mosquito repellent, eliminate bodies of standing water, and try to close any windows and screen doors to the outside world during the end of the summer as we wrap up for the next few months. The mornings and evenings are when mosquitoes are their most active. So EEE is just another one you can add to the list of what to be afraid of, but there are smart ways to protect yourself.
Well, let's talk about one we're a little more familiar with, West Nile virus. There have been 4 cases so far reported in New York State. Cases are pretty low in New York City, but what actions are city officials taking to limit the possible spread?
Well, and it's a good reminder, Anne-Marie, that in all of these cases, it's the elderly and young folks who are the most vulnerable. They can be hit hardest by all of this. Some of the things they're doing here in New York City, for example, to protect against West Nile is eliminating bodies of standing water. People can, in fact, call the city and alert them to any bodies of standing water that they see that need to be wiped away, I guess, or put down drains. The city is also spraying for mosquitoes, and they're taking 2 different methods. People in New York may have seen trucks coming through and spraying material. They do 2 things. One is called adulticide, and this is where they simply spray for adult mosquitoes in the evening. They do this in residential areas and parks, but they're also doing aerial larviciding. And that basically is killing mosquitoes from helicopters. They don't do this in mostly populated areas. They do this where there are not residential spots, but basically that aerial larviciding kills the mosquito larvae before they become adults. And so it's really about eliminating the mosquitoes. For us, it's wearing, this spray, wearing long sleeves, closing the doors, making sure these mosquitoes don't get around. And they're mostly active in the mornings and the evenings. So the other way, Anne-Marie, to protect yourself is stay inside and keep watching your show and keep connected with us.
Well, I'm not going to argue with that piece of advice, but it is good advice, Errol. I know for me, I usually don't spray until I've already seen a mosquito. So it's good to sort of think about it ahead of time before you head out, right? To avoid being bitten altogether. Errol Barnett, thank you so much.
You will never, ever see these networks mention what I am mentioning. And that is the endocrine disruption, the immune suppression, the neurotoxicity.
So you think you know Wix? Do you really?
The neurotoxicity of these chemicals affecting your immune system. They never say that. Oh, we're gonna just kill off the West Nile virus and triple E. Get rid of the mosquitoes. But the methods affect our health, and we need to detoxify them out of our body because we're going into a season that it may be problematic. This is why I keep on saying that the majority of
State
the
health
people
officials, meantime, did not.
the majority of the people out there are just a bunch of idiots.
Towns and cities across the country are now on alert for mosquito-borne illnesses, including the rare Eastern Equine Encephalitis virus. Plymouth, Massachusetts is closing parks and fields at dusk. Other towns are urging people to avoid going outdoors at night during those hours of peak mosquito activity. More now from ABC's Bitchute.
Tonight, during the final weeks of summer, Plymouth, Massachusetts, south of Boston, closing its parks and fields from dusk till dawn. One of 10 communities in the state where families are at high or critical risk for becoming infected with the Eastern Equine Encephalitis virus, a rare but potentially deadly mosquito-borne illness.
Key thing is there's no vaccines or treatment for triple E, so prevention is really very critical.
Starting this week, crews will spray for mosquitoes from the ground and from the air in more than a dozen towns. The CDC says although most people who get the triple E virus have no symptoms, a small percentage develop brain inflammation, and about a third of those people will die. And many survivors suffer long-term neurologic damage. In 2019, the threat of the triple E virus impacted Friday night lights in multiple states. Connecticut's Windsor High School among those rescheduling their football games and other outdoor activities to before dusk to limit exposure to mosquitoes. That year, there were more than 36 cases of human triple E virus across 10 states in the U.S., the highest on record. At least 12 people died. And in New York City, crews spraying in Manhattan and Brooklyn this week to combat another mosquito-borne illness, the West Nile virus. Dr. Anthony Fauci among those in the U.S. now recovering from that virus. Mary, officials say being vigilant about practicing protective behaviors. Use repellents with EPA-registered active ingredients. When outdoors, wear clothing that covers the skin and reschedule outdoor activities to avoid the hours between dusk and dawn.
I created Terramana with a mission to put the spirit of mana into every bottle we make. Mana is found in early mornings.
That's right. And what's really crazy about this is New Hampshire state health officials say we haven't seen a human case of triple E since 2014. So far this year, we saw one positive test in a horse, as well as in 7 batches of mosquitoes. There was also one human case in Massachusetts. What we know about the person who did die from complications related to triple E is that this person was an adult from Hampstead. The state has confirmed that they contracted a severe central nervous system disease as a result of the virus. Triple E stands for Eastern Equine Encephalitis, and it's transmitted through bites from infected mosquitoes. We spoke with New Hampshire state epidemiologist Dr. Benjamin Chan, who explains just how dangerous triple E can be.
There is no vaccine to prevent these mosquito-transmitted infections. There are no specific antiviral medications to treat somebody if they become infected. So the best way to prevent infection and the complications that can arise from being infected is to prevent mosquito bites.
Dr. Chan says ways you can do this is to stay covered when you're outside, and if you are exposed to the elements, use mosquito repellent whenever you can. Live in Hampstead is
Not once do they say that it affects your endocrine system, your immune system, your neurological system, causes stress on your cells. Not once. This is why I keep on saying you need to pay attention. I will navigate you through this. Some people are going to pay attention and great, but others that don't, it's their own damn fault. All right. I've done my public service announcement to mankind. You follow my lead, you'll be okay. If you don't, you might have a problem. Very simple. Very, very simple.
Towns and cities across the country are now on alert from
Eastern equine encephalitis is short term is EEE, is a virus infection carried by mosquitoes that can cause, very rarely causes disease in humans. And when it does cause a infection, is very, very severe. Though it's a very rare infection, we have no treatment for it to do this. And then once someone gets it, it's just all we can do is provide supportive care, and it can kill people. Well, this is a virus which is present in the environment
That's why I keep on saying low probability, high impact. The virus, EEE and West Nile, low probability, high impact. The impact is even higher for EEE than relative to West Nile. But the chemicals that they're going to be spraying to prevent the bug bites are going to affect your endocrine system, your neurological system, your immune system, and cause cellular stress. Trust me on this.
New England. So there are cases in Massachusetts, cases in Rhode Island, cases in Connecticut. Tends to be areas where a certain kind of mosquito lives. That tends to be areas that used to be swampland that's been converted, and less swampy now, but the mosquitoes still find good habitat.
We don't see EEE activity every year in Massachusetts. It tends to occur in outbreak cycles. Our last outbreak cycle was 2019 through 2020. And what we have seen over sort of the last 10, 12 years is that we're starting to see.
What's a shocking, what's a shocker is that 2019, 2020, we had that crisis, if you remember. All right, a lot of people were away, it's staying indoors in 2020. Now they didn't stay indoors in 2019, so that may be the reason why it carried into 2020. But the probability of these things are happening all at the same time makes you use that as a data point to say, you know what, there's something nefarious happening here. Like the chances of something nefarious are increasing, not decreasing.
Activity outside of the historic hotspot. And we're concerned that that's due to a couple of factors, including some of the climate change, likely climate change effects, like a warming temperature, changes in migratory bird patterns, and changes in precipitation activity as well. So we work very hard to make sure people are aware of where and when EEE is happening, and make sure they understand the steps that they can take to help protect themselves, including using a mosquito repellent anytime they're outside. When it's not super hot, you can use clothing to reduce exposed skin. And then in areas where EEE risk is very elevated, so not the entire state, but parts of the state, we make a recommendation that people
there are natural mosquito repellent methods. I'm not aware of exactly what they are, but there are some. Most people, though, aren't going to be using these kind of methods. So they're going to go to the store and buy something toxic. All right. I know that what they're spraying by the city is not a natural way to kill off these mosquitoes. It's toxic. All right. So you got to be prepared and detoxify this stuff out of your body, or you're going to have problems with your endocrine system, your immune system, stress on your cells, and your neurological health is going to be diminished or potentially diminished.
Activity between the hours of dusk and dawn.
Learned the New Hampshire man who died from Eastern Equine Encephalitis, or EEE, was 41 years old. Stephen Perry's family tells us he was healthy one week and heartbreakingly brain dead the next. Thanks for being with us tonight. I'm Lisa Hughes.
And I'm David Wade. Thank you for joining us. This is the state's first confirmed human case of EEE and first death since 2014. The Hampstead, New Hampshire man had been hospitalized with severe central nervous system disease. WBC's Louisa Mueller is live for us in Hampstead tonight, where members of the community are now on heightened alert for mosquitoes. Louisa.
Well, David and Lisa, I just spoke with the mother and the sister of Stephen Perry. You said it. He's 41. This is a young man. They say he had no underlying health conditions. And now they are grieving, but they also want to emphasize that this is a rare virus, but it is not treatable. So they say protection is vital. His family says he was funny, smart, and driven. But in 1 week, everything changed. 41-year-old Stephen Perry from Hampstead, New Hampshire, went to the hospital with a brain infection and died from Eastern Equine Encephalitis, or EEE.
This is a small town, and the idea that somebody already died from this before we'd even heard anything really about it is pretty scary.
It's a rare virus transmitted by bites from infected mosquitoes. It can also cause severe brain damage and death.
Up to a third of people die from their disease, and then many of the people that recover end up having lifelong disabilities.
And while Hampstead already monitors its mosquitoes and may spray its sports fields, New Hampshire State epidemiologist Dr. Benjamin Chan says, granted,
spray the sports fields, it's football season, your kids are, playing on the field, they're being exposed, their skin's being exposed to the field, they're breathing in those chemicals. This is a problem. This is why I keep on saying, again, these chemicals are going to disrupt your endocrine system. It's going to put cellular stress, create free radicals. It's going to cause problems with your neurons, and it's going to affect your immune system. This is why you need to boost up your immune system, soak up those free radicals, and protect your neurons. All right, and detoxify the body. I'm going to tell you how to do that. All right. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the C60. C60 is a very strong antioxidant. All right, you can get it in MCT coconut oil, you can get it in extra virgin olive oil, and you can get it in coconut oil. I'm sorry. Wait a minute, let me get this straight. MCT coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil, or avocado oil. All right. With these different oils, all right, C60 is dissolved. C60 is a molecule that is carbon molecule of 60 carbons, and it helps to soak up free radicals, neutralize those free radicals. All right, these free radicals, once they're neutralized, will not cause damage to the cell. All right, you take a teaspoon of this a day. Just take a teaspoon of it a day. It'll soak up those free radicals. Okay? This is taking a lesson learned from the anti-aging crowd and the longevity crowd. By taking strong antioxidants, you're reducing cellular stress, so it improves your mitochondrial health, and your cells will have more energy. Okay? This also helps with your neurons, because by improving the neural health, by bringing down the free radicals, and by improving your mitochondrial health, you'll have more energy to create those neurotransmitters. And so the neuron is healthier, all right? So it's really important. So take C60, take a teaspoon of it a day, every day, and by doing that, you're going to soak up those free radicals. All right. So please go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com.
Residents should assume the threat is everywhere.
The risk for these mosquito-transmitted infections, we believe, is statewide. We have a surveillance system in place to help identify infections or mosquito detections when we test, but testing doesn't occur statewide.
Which is why Chan says measures like avoiding the outdoors at dawn and dusk Wearing long sleeves and pants and insect repellent and removing standing water from your property are so important. In Massachusetts, the state will begin spraying to kill mosquitoes by air and truck in Plymouth and Worcester counties tonight. That's after a man in his 80s from Worcester County became the first person diagnosed with.
So when they're spraying these concentrations, it's going to affect your immune system, your endocrine system, cause more free radicals. That's why you need to be taking the C60. So go to the store, get the C60, soak up those free radicals, reduces the cellular stress, and it helps to improve your mitochondrial health. So you have the energy. In addition, this is happening right before the election season. So people may be fearful to go to the ballot box. Maybe they'll do mail-in ballots. People potentially will get sicker because their immune system and the endocrine system is disrupted as we move into the cold season. So RSV might go up, Mpox might go up, SARS-CoV-2 might go up, and influenzas might be going up. So we got a problem here, and you need to detoxify these chemicals that they're spraying in your community because they are endocrine disruptors. They do affect your immune system.
In the Commonwealth since 2020. Across the region, the message isn't panic, just protection.
And let's just say that there's nothing nefarious going on, and they're just spraying chemicals to kill mosquitoes. What if they're spraying something in certain communities that launches something more serious during the cold season on purpose? We don't know. No one knows what the hell they're spraying. No one's doing a third-party test.
But it concerns me.
The New Hampshire health officials also want to emphasize that the risk from triple E will not go away for a few months until the first frost happens and it wipes out the mosquito population. So stay vigilant. Live in Hampstead, New Hampshire, Louisa Moeller, WBZ News.
All right, Louisa, thank you. Now, while West Nile and Triple E are both mosquito-borne illnesses, they're actually very different. So I want to break that down for you. 80% of people infected with West Nile will have no symptoms. Those who do may experience a fever, headache, body aches, or nausea. West Nile was just in the news because Dr. Anthony Fauci was hospitalized with it. But fewer than 1% will develop a severe illness, which could lead to a coma or paralysis. Triple E, though, is much more rare and much more serious. High fever, stiff neck, and a headache that may start 3 to 10 days after a mosquito bite. The most serious complication is inflammation and swelling of the brain. The disease progresses very quickly, and there is no treatment.
Well, our WBZ Next Weather team has an exclusive partnership with the Centers for Disease Control and with Johns Hopkins University. Our chief meteorologist, Eric Fisher, is here with us.
Exclusive relationship? Sounds like Smith Modernization Act. I'm telling you, this is a domino effect for something worse. I've given you some of the hints on where this might be going. Fucking A.
And Eric, I know you have the newest information about the areas right now that are at highest risk for Triple E in Massachusetts.
Really, you only find out when there's testing, right? You have to catch certain mosquitoes, and then those have to test, and you get a sense for where they might be living. But we have some of that data, at least, to give us an idea of where those mosquitoes are. Right now, we're getting that testing in southern Worcester County, as well as areas around Plymouth in southeastern Massachusetts, and also some pockets there toward the Merrimack Valley, as we just saw, of course, in New Hampshire, too. And a little closer look, some of those pockets, including Dudley, Northbridge, Uxbridge, all at high Triple E risk, as well as around Plymouth, in Middleborough, Carver, and Plymouth itself. So these are spots where already there's been some testing. We know there are mosquitoes there, and that risk is high. Big part of the story here, it tends to come in cycles. Usually there are outbreaks of Triple E every 10 to 15, even 20 years. Now, our last big one was 5 years ago, so this is actually fairly close to that last big one in 2019. And we had so much rain last year. And although this summer hasn't been nearly as wet as last summer in the Boston area,
let's just rewind that.
Let's just completely dried out. Last year was one of the wettest on record. This year is Uxbridge, all at high Triple E risk, as well as around Plymouth, in Middleborough, Carver, and Plymouth itself. So these are spots where already there's been some testing. We know there are mosquitoes there, and that risk is high. Big part of the story here, it tends to come in cycles. Usually there are outbreaks of EEE every 10 to 15, even 20 years. Now, our last big one was 5 years ago. So this is actually
that zone, that range, 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, it could happen anytime. I tell you, these people, they just like they don't even edit their work. I tell you, they
Oh, so these are spots where already there's been some testing. We know there are mosquitoes there, and that risk is high. Big part of the story here, it tends to come in cycles. Usually there are outbreaks of EEE every 10 to 15, even 20 years. Now, our last big one was 5 years ago. So this is actually fairly close to that last big one in 20.
It's happening too early. But he's trying to spin it as if this is a normal situation. This is another data point. Zooming out, this is another data point that something nefarious is fucking happening. And it's tied to the mosquitoes and or the spraying. Let's repeat that.
Eastern Massachusetts, and also some pockets there toward the Merrimack Valley, as we just saw, of course, in New Hampshire too. And a little closer look, some of those pockets, including Dudley and Northbridge, Uxbridge, all that high EEE risk, as well as around Plymouth, and Middleborough, Carver, and Plymouth itself. So these are spots where already there's been some testing. We know there are mosquitoes there, and that risk is high. Big part of the story here, it tends to come in cycles. Usually there are outbreaks of EEE every 10 to 15, even 20 years. Now, our last big one was 5 years ago. So this is actually fairly close to that last big one in 2019. And we had so much rain last year. And although this summer hasn't been nearly as wet as last summer in the Boston area, we still have a lot of standing water. I mean, we never really completely dried out. Last year was one of the wettest on record. This year is still the 5th wettest on record in Worcester and sitting at number 22 in Boston. A lot of that was back in the spring and early in the winter time where it wasn't exactly cold. That's another part of the story. And so really, we don't have a lot of places that have dried out. There's a lot of standing water still, ponds still very full, wetlands still very full. That's breeding ground for mosquitoes. And there really hasn't been much cold over the course of this year. Every month has been warmer than average, except for this August actually might be the first cooler than average month.
But the Bill Gates start talking about doing experimentation with mosquitoes, right? You know, having mosquitoes trying to genetically modified where they kill off certain sexes. I think it's the males that are killed off only. Maybe it's just the females. I'm not sure which. There's some experimentation with inoculations. The election is coming up. That is, you can see how the national security state is having a convulsions because of the Trump campaign. The wars that we're having that are starting to evolve. I'm not so sure that this is natural. It could be, but it's happening a little bit too early and a little bit too close to some important events that are taking place, like the general election in the United States.
Last November. So we've certainly had conditions that are good habitat for mosquitoes to be in, unfortunately, this time around. And yes, the first frost is what we're looking for. Usually that comes in September or October, depending on where you live. Of course, it usually arrives for northern areas a little bit faster. David?
All right, so we'll be careful until then. Thank you so much, Erica.
When I was a kid, it was wetter. There was more precipitation. We didn't have this problem. It is hotter out now. The lawns and stuff get dry quickly. And you're having more problems. Now, as temperatures go up, then the whole mosquito population is moving from the equator and moving northward. That's true. But why is this all happening? Why is this all happening at a very important nexus point? in our geopolitical landscape, our domestic and international landscape. I can't prove that's nefarious, but just when you look at the metadata, it's leaning towards that. But for sure, the chemicals they're spraying disrupt your endocrine system, even if it's chemicals that are just for trying to kill off mosquitoes. But if they're putting stuff in there that are for other nefarious reasons, we got a bigger problem. Why can't we have these news anchors that actually aren't so stupid? I mean, is that asking much?
A threat related to mosquitoes is forcing authorities in Plymouth, Massachusetts to close parks and fields at night. The public health department says it is necessary after a man in his 80s contracted equine encephalitis. EEE is different from the West Nile virus, which can also come from mosquito bites. Health officials say about 30% of people who contract equine encephalitis don't survive. No other cases have been reported. West Nile is also a threat in Massachusetts right now, with 8 jurisdictions at high risk.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Get more great ABC7 content by clicking the subscribe button for our YouTube.
Great content, really? Really? Amazing. All right, before we go into a little bit deeper dive of EEE, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get this new product I have, vitamin K2. This is the MK7 molecule. This is important for bone health and also cardiovascular health. All right. K2 helps to absorb calcium. You take it with D3, right? And it'll help to maintain bone health and joint health. But if you take this vitamin K2, MK7 with vitamin D3, C60, turmeric, ashwagandha, omega-3, and nattokinase, what you're going to do is you're going to be improving your cardiovascular health. You're bringing down the inflammation. You're reducing the buildup of plaque, and over time, you are actually having those plaques go down. Because if you control your blood glucose levels and maintain low oxidized stress for the LDL, and you bring down your LDL levels, and you're bringing down your LDL levels through the nattokinase and the omega-3, you're reducing the buildup of these plaques. All right, the K2, the ashwagandha, and the D3 help to kind of slowly have these plaques diminish. So it's really important. Cardiovascular health and bone health. All right, and the protocol for the cardiovascular health is K2, the D3, the ashwagandha, the turmeric, the C60, the omega-3, and the nattokinase. All right. By doing that, you mix those together, and you're bringing down the plaque buildup, and you're reducing additional plaque buildup. All right. It's up to you. You can take my advice or not. Now, again, I told you the mechanisms. The ashwagandha helps to control the blood glucose levels and reduces that pro-inflammatory response because of the glucose levels. The turmeric brings down the inflammatory response to reduce the migration of the macrophages and reduces the chances of the intima of the vascular system from being perturbed. The C60 reduces oxidized LDL levels because it's getting rid of the oxidized stress. The LDL is reduced by the omega-3 and the nattokinase at higher doses. The D3 and the K2 is bringing out that calcium. Now, you want to pay attention or not? It's up to you. It's up to you.
To speak. I wanted to talk about what's going on with EEE virus. Last year, we had the largest outbreak of EEE virus in more than 50 years. And most of those human cases were centered in the Northeast in just 4 states, in New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. So I wanted to talk about sort of the long-term trends that are leading up to the increased activity of this virus.
If this is all natural, if it's all natural, why does it seem like God hates liberals? Because these are attacking liberal states.
Out our state experience in Connecticut and the program that I'm involved with. So by way of introduction, EEE virus is a rare disease, causes a rare disease, but it's a very serious illness. It's the most lethal arthropod-borne virus in North America, and it kills about 40% of hospitalized cases. And of those that survive, about half of those individuals suffer from lifelong disability and neurological impairment. There's no commercial vaccine, at least for humans. There is a vaccine for horses, though. And there are no effective antiviral treatments for people either. It's just supportive care. And on average, in the country and throughout the US, there are about 6 to 7 human cases per year.
So basically, you have 3 viruses that are in the psyche of Americans at the moment. All right, West Nile, EEE, and Mpox. All 3 of them do not have good therapies. Problem.
But this virus can cause disease outbreaks where cases cluster in space and time. And as you can imagine, this causes a lot of fear and concern, and justifiable fear and concern among the public when there is an outbreak. The virus activity is really focused in and around freshwater swamps. So it's highly focal, very geographically specific to certain, habitats. And it perpetuates in a bird-mosquito transmission cycle, with the principal vector in the northeastern U.S. being Culicida melanura. This is a species that feeds predominantly on birds and is the primary vector involved in virus amplification. This just shows kind of a broad map summarizing all the reported human cases since it was a reportable disease starting in 1964. And you'll see that there really are a few focal areas. Most of the human cases occur in Florida, but also there's a cluster or a number of cases reported in Georgia. There's another focal area up in the northeastern U.S. Massachusetts has the 2nd highest number of reported cases nationally, but also New Jersey is another hot spot. Fortunately, in Pennsylvania, the number of cases are extremely, well, there's only 3 reported human cases since 1964. So Pennsylvania has been largely spared from this virus. And then there's another focal area up in the upper Midwest, particularly most of the cases centered in Michigan. So if we look at the northeastern U.S., which is really one of the focal areas for the disease, you'll see that if we look at the long-term trends, the number of human cases are increasing over, we're in a period of resurgence, starting back in 2003 to today. And you'll see, if you look at the number of spikes in cases, there was a spike in 2005, another spike in 2012, and then there was the outbreak last year in 2019. And you'll see these outbreak years are occurring in increasing frequency than in the past. So if you look historically, prior to 2003, there was really only one spike of cases in 1968 and another spike in 1983. So there were these long periods of time where there was really very low to no virus activity. Well, that is changing now. We're seeing higher levels of virus activity, and we're also seeing a northward expansion where human cases are occurring further north into northern New England, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. This just shows you the reported cases for 2020 so far this year. I just took a snapshot from the CDC website. Actually, you can't really see it from this map, but most of the human cases are we're in Massachusetts. There are 5 reported human cases, and then just a few cases in Michigan and Wisconsin this year. So when we look at the factors contributing to the resurgence of EEE virus, there are a number of long-term changes in the landscape that are likely to lead to more EEE virus transmission, starting really way back to the turn of the century with the abandonment of agriculture in the Northeast, and much of the land has been restored to its forested state. This creates the appropriate habitat for the main vector Culicida melanura, which are these forested wetlands. So with wetland restoration and forest reforestation, that will lead to increased habitat for Culicida melanura. Also for the birds that transmit the virus as well, are involved in virus amplification. Also, look at these changes over time. There's been a lot of growth and development and fragmentation into the forested sites and development around these critical wetland habitats, which will serve to increasingly expose people to EEE virus infection. And then finally, the climate is changing as well in our area, and we're seeing milder winters, warmer summers, and both extremes in precipitation and drought. And this will likely have a number of impacts on mosquito populations. It could enhance overwintering survival of Culicida melanura, extend the transmission season, so we have a longer mosquito season each year, and accelerate the generation time of mosquitoes with warmer weather and increasing the frequency of blood feeding as well. And this could also allow the mosquitoes to expand their range northward, particularly Culicida melanura, which is the main vector. And we're seeing EEE virus as far north now as Canada and up into Maine. So this is likely a result of climate change as well. So I want to talk a little bit about the EEE outbreak last year in 2019. So nationally, there were 38 human cases. 3 of these human cases were located in the northeastern US. And what you'll see is the focal areas primarily in southern New England and up in New Jersey. Just wanted to point out that you'll see that there are these sort of focal areas. There's a focus of transmission up in the sort of Great Lakes area of New York, where they have abundant swamp habitat, and as well as in southern New Jersey, eastern Connecticut, and into Massachusetts and Rhode Island. And that is largely a function of where the mosquitoes are found that transmit the virus. So when we look at what happened last year, it's worth kind of revisiting some of the conditions that are known to favor EEE outbreaks. So this is, we look at sort of the EEE literature, there are a number of variables that have been identified as important risk factors for EEE virus transmission and outbreak years. One of them, if we look at sort of the early season indicators or the proximal factors that may lead to EEE in a given year, One of the big risk factors is significant EEE of activity in the previous year. So we know from genetic data that we've done and other people have done that actually EEE is maintained year-round in Florida, and the strains that are come up into the northeastern U.S. are probably brought up by migratory birds. Once they're introduced into the area and the virus is seeded in our region, the virus will persist for a couple of years. So if you have significant EEE virus activity in 1 year, you're likely to see it reoccur the next year. So that's one risk factor. And that was one risk factor that wasn't found last year. One of the other risk factors is mild winters with insulating snow cover. So Culicida melanura overwinters as larvae in these subterranean crypts, that little water pockets that form in the base of trees. And if the water is not allowed to freeze over, that will lead to higher survival of those larvae, resulting in a larger population the following year. And we definitely had a milder year prior to 2019. High water table also in enzotic swamps, that factor was met in 2019, as well as higher rainfall in the prior fall and winter and spring. If we look at sort of indicators of high risk of EEE, some of the variables include above average Culicida melanura populations, EEE virus isolations from mosquitoes in June or early July, so early emergence of the virus. That condition was met in 2019, as well as isolations of EEE virus from mammalian biting mosquitoes, such as Cochleatidia perturbans, and that also occurred in 2019. Numerous EEE virus isolations, yes. High infection rates in Culicida melanura, yes. EEE virus activity beyond traditional areas, yes. Early and above average equine cases, and finally an infection of a human prior to August. So we knew.
Let me do a commercial here. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the new product that I have, the natto kinase. Like I said, this helps to break up clots, so it's going to be important, especially the aftershock in 2020. In addition, I'm concerned that bug bites may elicit an inflammatory response that may create microclots. So please go and get this and take the natto kinase so you aren't building up too many clots, all right? In addition, by taking this, you can bring down your LDL levels and increase your HDL levels when you take a higher dose of natto kinase. So this helps with the cardiovascular health. So there's a dual purpose here. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the natto kinase. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video.
Actually, kind of early on, we were kind of in for it in 2019, given all of these factors were in place in 2019. It really was a perfect storm that led to that massive outbreak last year. So a little closer to home, I just wanted to talk about the data or the monitoring program that I've been involved with since 2004. This was established in 1997 after a EEE outbreak in 96. And we're monitoring mosquitoes by trapping them at we're up to 108 locations statewide. Each site, we set two kinds of traps, CDC, CO2 baited light traps, and gravid traps. And then all the mosquitoes that are collected at these locations, we set the traps on a 10-day rotation at each site, and all the mosquitoes are brought back to our lab in New Haven, are sorted, identified to species level, and tested for virus infection. And this serves as the backbone of our surveillance program. It provides an early warning system and allows us to assess risk of human infection in advance of human cases. So this is a summary of all the EEE virus activity, really since '96, in the state of Connecticut. And you'll see all the dots represent mosquito trapping stations in the state. And a lot of the traps are set in sites where West Nile virus is at risk, in those more urban districts, indicated in red, up in the Hartford area, New Haven area, and in this urban corridor between New Haven and New York City. But what you'll see with EEE virus is actually it's kind of the mirror image of West Nile virus. It's found in more rural areas, and for Connecticut, it's primarily focused in the southeastern or eastern part of the state, particularly along the Rhode Island border. These are areas where we repeatedly detect EEE virus in mosquitoes over multiple years, these larger black dots. And so one of the things I want to point out about EEE is it's very geographically associated with specific locales. It has a geographic specificity. So it's very predictable in terms of where you're going to find it. It's not very predictable in terms of, if we look at variation by year. So if you look at this histogram down on the right hand corner, lower right hand corner, you'll see number of virus isolations per year, and we get these spikes of virus activity about every 5 years, including in 2019. And so that is largely somewhat driven by weather variables.
So the newscaster on the previous video didn't get it right. It's not every 10, 20 or, every 10, 15, 20 years. It's every 5 years. It's just like
variation, but there are other factors as well that are behind those, behind that variation we see from year to year. I also want to point out, so we've known about EEE for some time, and we've had actually, there have been reported equine cases dating back to the 1930s in Connecticut. But human cases are a new phenomenon. So we had our first human case in 2013, or I should say documented human case. Maybe there were more before it and we just didn't know about it. But there was a human case right up on the Connecticut border, on the Rhode Island border. And then in back in 2019, we had actually 4 human cases last year, and those were focused or concentrated in this lower Connecticut River Valley area. And so that was a little surprising to us because most of our virus activity is right up along the Rhode Island border. And so it was in a kind of a new region for us, and in an area where we don't have a lot of mosquito traps to begin with. So it was very frustrating when that outbreak hit. We didn't have the traps where we needed them. This just shows sort of the habitat where we're finding EEE. These are kind of the textbook kind of locations where Chiloceta melanura is found. The larvae develop in water in these underground crypts, little water pockets that form at the base of swamp trees. And sometimes you have to go really, really far down with your dipper to get to the water where they're found. So it's these very cryptic habitats. Sometimes they're found in a little more open pools, as you see up in the left, upper left panel. But for the most part, it's very hard actually to sample the larvae themselves. And you can imagine this would be also a very hard mosquito species to control by larviciding. And so, because they're in these very difficult, inaccessible, they're developing in these inaccessible habitats. So this just shows a summary map of EEE virus activity last year. As I mentioned, we had 4 human cases in Connecticut. Also, we had a number of equine cases, most of those in the Connecticut River Valley area, as well as a few cases along the Rhode Island border. We knew back in 2019 we were in for it just based on our looking at numbers of Culicida melanura per trap week. The numbers were well above average. They were about 2 to 3 times higher what we normally collect in any given year. This blue line shows the long-term average over 24 years of collection data. And we see that Culicida melanura were well exceeded historical norms that year. And we're kind of holding our breath, hoping that EEE virus would not be introduced into our area, because we knew it was really the perfect conditions for this virus. So this shows the epidemic curve of EEE virus in Connecticut based on, so the bars show detection of virus in mosquitoes, and the red bars show detection in avian biting mosquitoes or non-mammalian biting mosquitoes, primarily Culicida melanura. The blue lines show detection of virus in mammalian biting mosquitoes. And what you'll see is that we first collected the virus as early as late July. And what I think is really worth pointing out here is just how rapidly the virus will escalate. You know, from our first detection of the virus, we very rapidly saw a steep buildup of virus. The first horse cases were they weren't reported, they were they developed, the date of disease onset was as early as the first week of August. So the horse cases followed soon after we detected it in mosquitoes, and human cases were started in the third week of August till the middle of September. So I just wanted to sort of point out how little time you have when EEE hits and it starts to take off. You really don't have a lot of time to react to it. Prevent, you know, human cases or horse cases for that matter. This just shows our breakdown. So we detected breakdown of EEE virus in mosquito pools by mosquito species in Connecticut during that year. So we detected the virus in 122 mosquito pools, representing 15 species. The vast majority of infections were detected in Culicida melanura, and followed by a number of other species. Some of the species have been implicated as potential bridge vectors because they feed opportunistically on both birds and on mammalian hosts and humans. And that includes species like Cochleotidia perturbans. We had 6 detections or 6 positive pools of that species. Ochlorotatus or Aedes canadensis, we had 5 positive pools. Aedes vexans, we had 4 positive pools. And Culex salinarius, we also had 4 positive pools. So we're detecting it not just in bird biting mosquitoes, but also significant infections in some of these potential bridge vectors. So, you know,
please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the ubiquinol. It's a new product that I have on my store. It's the active form for CoQ10. You should be taking this every day. I take CoQ10. I've been taking it for years, but now I can finally have a product on my store that you can purchase at a decent price to be able to add it to your protocol. But take ubiquinol every day. What this does is it's an antioxidant. It also helps to boost up your energy levels, and it is also a neuroprotector. So please go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the ubiquinol. It's the active form for CoQ10.
That we had these 4 human cases in 2019. And I think it's worth to go back and look at our historical data for as long as the program has been in place and really compare what we found that year to other years. And looking at that data, there's nothing that jumps out when we look at the surveillance data that, I mean, we've had other bad years for triple E, but not necessarily human cases. In 2003, we had 87 positive pools. We also had a number of infections in other animals, in pheasants, in horses. We actually had penguin flocks that got infected from Mystic Aquarium. 2009 was another bad year. We had 123 positive pools, a couple of pheasant flocks, a horse case, and finally the first human case was in 2013. So it wasn't clear looking at the mosquito data that there was, what was remarkable about 2019. Well, we've had other years with high levels of virus activity and gotten through the year without human cases. There's nothing obvious looking at that data. The only thing I can say is if we look at the virus detection by week and look at the mosquito data, we see that at least in the 2 years where we had human cases in 2013 and in 2019, that those were years when we detected the virus much earlier in the season. In Connecticut, unlike some of the other states like Massachusetts, which detects it very early on in the year, we usually don't pick up the virus until middle to late August at the earliest. But 2019 and 2013 were remarkable years where we saw early seeding of the virus, detection of the virus. And so that may be an important risk factor going forward for outbreak years of triple E virus. So with the detection of triple E and the additional 4 human cases, we expanded our trapping program last year to increase trapping coverage in Eastern Connecticut. One of the lessons from 2019 was we just simply didn't have enough trap coverage in some of the areas where many of the human cases were concentrated. So with some additional funding, we increased our trapping presence in that area, and so that's something that we hope to continue moving forward. It will really depend on funding from the state level, but this year we were able to increase our trap presence in those areas to look for the virus. And despite increased trapping this year, we detected very little in the way of virus. Triple E really kind of dropped off the map this year. We had 2 positive pools this year. We're still trapping mosquitoes and we'll continue till the middle of October, but I doubt that we're going to see much more at this point in the year. And so we had no human cases or no horse cases. So we caught a break this year in terms of triple E. West Nile virus is a different story. We had a lot of West Nile virus this year. So what happened this year? Well,
I mean,
if we look
it's important that I mention that this PowerPoint was done 3 years ago. All right, so just keep that in mind. The reason why I'm playing this is to understand the epi curve in prior years.
Melanura numbers, you'll see that they dropped off. They were about average starting out. We had a spike kind of in late June, early July. But then the mosquitoes really declined precipitously throughout the rest of the summer. We never saw the emergence of a 3rd generation, which we sometimes see in sort of late August, early September. That just didn't happen. It was so dry. And this just shows a summary of the rainfall data for 2020 so far in the northeastern US. And you'll see in New England, really throughout New England, it's been really dry. And those conditions are not favorable for Culicida melanura, which requires a high water table in those swamp habitats. So we think that's what happened. This virus kind of lives and dies with Culicida melanura abundance. And so with that, what am I doing on time? On time. All right. Well, I just want to thank my colleagues at Connecticut Agricultural Experiment Station. And
all right, so that's that. See if we can find one more here. I want to filter something for something that is recent. Here. Let's let's play Holtz. I can't stand Dr. Holtz, but let's just play what he has to say here.
Your future is at your fingertips. Take advantage of the flexibility and diversity of futures trading with Ninja.
And we have to be.
My caveat is I don't like this guy. He's obviously on the take. All right. And it's important to mention that EEE and West Nile are rare, but high impact if you get it. It's even more high impact for EEE relative to West Nile. I am concerned not so much of the virus. I'm concerned about the endocrine disruption and the immune disruption from the chemicals that they're spraying because they're toxic. And that's why I keep on saying, go to my store and get the zeolite and make sure you get the NAC to be able to detoxify this out of your body. All right. NAC is a detoxifier. Zeolite is a detoxifier. And to help to bring down those free radicals, you want to take C60 to bring down that cellular stress and those free radicals to help to have those cells boost up their metabolism and their processes. All right. We're going to be bombarded in these areas where they're going to be doing these sprayings. We're going to be bombarded by things that affect our endocrine system, affect our immune system, increase our free radicals, and they're also going to affect our neurons, our nervous system. So it's really important to take C60 to bring down those free radicals and take NAC to detoxify. It also brings down the free radicals, and take zeolite to neutralize those chemicals and for you to urinate them out. It's really important. If you don't pay attention to what I'm saying, you're gonna have problems. Now, what I just said in such a short amount of time, right, is gonna be more profound than anything that this asshole has to say.
And here's why.
Yeah, these mosquito-transmitted viruses are indeed accelerating, Chris, and it's happening not only in the eastern half of the United States and on the Gulf Coast and where I am in Texas, but it's also happening in the Caribbean, and it's happening in Brazil and in Central Latin America. So it's a hemisphere-wide problem, and we're seeing the sloth fever is also called Oropouche virus, and that's thousands and thousands of cases now in Brazil, and it's even been linked to birth defects. And we're seeing importation cases here in the United States. What affected Tony Fauci, our mutual friend and colleague, is West Nile virus, and that's on the rise. We're also seeing a lot of dengue fever now in Brazil in unprecedented levels, and that's now expected to hit the Gulf Coast of the United States. So we're getting ready. This is going to be one of our new normals, unfortunately, in the summer and early fall in the United States and in the Western Hemisphere.
Why now? What do we do about it?
What do we do about it? Well, I think one of the problems is when someone comes in to see their physician, say they go into an emergency room and they have say a fever and a rash or headache or what's called photophobia, they're afraid of the light. First of all, a lot of the doctors aren't even trained to recognize these arbovirus infections, arthropod-borne virus infections. Problem number one. Problem number two, the early phases of the illness are very non-specific, so the doc or the healthcare provider doesn't really know what they're seeing, and we don't have good what are called point-of-care diagnostic tests. So by the time someone gets diagnosed, it could be days afterwards. So what I think we need to do is implement a very detailed system. We're trying to do this now at our National School of Tropical Medicine, a detailed surveillance system where we're looking at collecting mosquitoes, doing the full genomes of the mosquitoes and their viruses, doing wastewater testing, and get a more complete county by county map or district by district map. The other problem is our fragmented health system. So some county health departments do what's called surveillance. Others don't. Some have capability for mosquito control. Others don't. So the whole system needs to be upgraded.
Is there medicine? Because the whole stay indoors thing is not going to work, especially with people coming off of COVID. You know how they feel about that. So, yeah, I mean, is this just some cyclical thing, or is there something we can take, or do you just have to spray like crazy? I mean, what are you supposed to do?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One, it's really important that people take personal protective measures. So, for instance, I try to get my 10,000 steps in every day, and I do an early morning walk in the morning and then one in the evening, which is unfortunately the maximal time when Culex mosquitoes are biting. So what I do, even though the weather's warm, I'm in full sweatpants, hooded sweatshirt, and a cap, and then on the exposed parts of my dorsal palmar surface of my hands and on my neck, I put on an insect repellent that contains 40% DEET. People, in my neighborhood sometimes look at me like I'm a bit crazy, but I say, look, I don't want to get West Nile virus. I don't want to get some of these other conditions. So that's absolutely important, in addition to the county and the city doing appropriate mosquito control interventions.
Dr. Hotez, thank you very much, but I got to tell you, I don't feel a lot better. I know it's real, but here's one more thing to worry about. Thank you very much, Doc. And as it progresses, please reach out to us.
The key is that there's no real treatment. All right. And the chemicals that they're going to be spraying are going to be endocrine disruptors. They're going to be disrupting your immune system. They're going to be disrupting your nervous system. They're going to increase your free radicals. He should have told you that. Because we're going into the cold season now with a compromised homeostasis. All right? Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the NAC. NAC is a very strong antioxidant because it brings up the glutathione levels. It's synergistic with C60. C60 soaks up the free radicals through the C60 molecule. NAC soaks up free radicals by boosting up the glutathione. NAC also helps to detoxify your body. And NAC also helps with mood, mental health, all right? We're gonna be going through stressful times, and people are gonna need to not be so stressed out, and they need to be calmed down and all this stuff. So it's really important to maintain mental health, bring up your glutathione levels so it's a strong antioxidant and help to detoxify your body. This is also synergistic with the protocol with the zeolite, because the zeolite is going to also help to detoxify your body from these chemicals. So it's really important, all right? So please go to the store and get the NAC. You should be taking this every day. It's a compound that people take from the anti-aging and the longevity crowd, right? And the reason why we were taking it was because it boosted up your glutathione levels, and you couple it with other antioxidants, and it helps to slow down the aging process and boost up the health of the cell. This is going to be important to detoxify your body, all right? You can learn from the people, I'm going to repeat this again. You can learn from the people that are part of the anti-aging and the longevity movement with what is going on right now. Because we've learned on how to detoxify the body and how to reduce the cellular stress. This person did not say anything about that. This guy is on the take, and he is part of the medical establishment problem that we have in America. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description. You better start listening to me, because if you don't, you're going to regret it. So go get the NAC, detoxify your body, boost up those glutathione levels so you can soak up those free radicals. All right? Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Lastly, this is another product that I have in my store that's new. It's NAD+. It's important to take every day. Why? It helps with boosting up your energy levels. It will help to improve your brain function. All right. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the NAD+. This is also very important to reduce and improve the damage that is taking place on your DNA. So when you have cells that are stressed or you get older, you build up DNA damage. Well, NAD+ helps to repair that DNA damage. This is one of those things you learn from the anti-aging crowd and the longevity crowd. By taking NAD+, you're repairing your DNA. Well, you're going to need to do that when you're getting bombarded by a bunch of chemicals. So NAD+ boosts up your energy levels, helps to repair your DNA, and it also helps with brain function. So please go to the store and get the NAD+. I have told you a lot of ways how to mitigate this problem. You need to detoxify your body. You need to take antioxidants. And you need to take products like the structural nanosilver gel as a barrier on your skin, and to mitigate any irritation that you may start to get in your throat by taking the lozenges and the drops. Okay, I gave you the recipe to mitigate this. Way more important than anything that he said. With the chemtrails, with the PFAS, so the chemtrails, the PFAS, the mosquito chemical spraying, we are getting bombarded. Our immune system, our endocrine system, our neurological system is getting bombarded. And I just told you on how to mitigate it. All right? So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take charge of your health. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day.